Good morning, everybody. For our next workshop, we have past District Governor Lynn Messer and Sheila Klepping, who is a speech therapist. She works in the Sheboygan Falls School District and is a recipient of the Herb Cole Education Fellowship Award. They are speaking on the William Kiwanis Autism Project. Their mission is to provide iPads and funding for children with autism of families in need. This is the signature project for our district. So take it away, Lynn and Sheila.
Okay, I'll start out with the basic beginning of the project, but I'd say initially we had the start of the project was the governor's project in 2012-13 when I was governor, and it's been going ever since. And our original goal of the project was 1,000 iPads and $500,000 raised. And so far we're.
You speak up, Lynn. Maybe it's my sound here, but
okay.
You speak up a little bit. That'd be great.
Our current status, as you see, we're at right now reached 1,225 iPads. And we have raised over $600,000 for the project, in which probably over 95% of it has all been raised by Kiwanis clubs. Our goals on this complement the Kiwanis motto. Kiwanis International is a global organization of members of every age who are dedicated to changing the world one child and one community at a time. And this definitely changes the lives of the children, their families, the parents, employers, and their siblings as well. So yes, we've granted 1,225 iPads for over 1,000 children. It ends up being in the thousands of people that this project has affected.
I'm sorry, Lynn, is there anybody else that has this like at 1/3 level for volume? Is that just my computer now? I've not touched my computer at all. Everybody else I could hear well. This one, Lynn, it sounds like you're a mile away.
I just turned the volume up.
Yep, Roger, you'll have to turn your volume up on your own computer.
On my computer, okay.
On our laptop here, it's maximum volume. So at this point, I'll turn this over. Sheila is going to be explaining the details with her project and how she's working with the children in school.
So as a member of the Sheboygan Falls Kiwanis Club and also a speech therapist within the local district, I get to serve as on both sides of this program, both as someone who helps grant the iPads and also someone who works with the families once they get the iPad. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you.
Great. So I'm going to go through some great advantages to this program and then also some program challenges, just so we can, talk about the program as a whole. So iPads really do help our children. They help with communication. They help the children transition between different environments and activities. They increase their understanding of what's being said to them. It helps them learn new skills, increase their engagement with others. That social communication piece is so important and helps decrease anxiety. And I'm going to go through each of these real quickly in more detail. First of all, an iPad can be used as a communication device. There are hundreds of communication apps and software available out there with varying degrees of simplicity and difficulty. So many, it's really hard even as a therapist to keep up with all the technology that keeps advancing. An iPad can be used to supplement communication, either in the event that a child with autism is nonverbal or until that child becomes a verbal speaker. And I just put these two examples as something to consider. The picture on the left is a communication device that a couple of years ago I worked with a student to help secure for him to use as a communication device through medical assistance and his personal insurance. This was a WeGo 7A communication device from a reputable software company out of Milwaukee. The device itself was $8,000, and this did not take into consideration the stand for his wheelchair, the speaker, the carrying case. It was $8,000 to secure this device. And it's a very nice device. But when I look at it, it is very similar to an iPad. In fact, the thing that goes into this device is an iPad mini. So comparatively speaking, families who may not have the medical assistance or the insurance available, on the picture on the right shows what the cost of an iPad with a case for Kiwanis is, about $390. And then depending on the software that the teachers and speech therapists would recommend for the student can range anywhere from $50 to $250. So we see the significant cost savings in terms of the device that's being used. It's a really great option for families who have that financial need. Another way that an iPad helps with students with autism is assisting with transitions. It might be from activity to activity or environment to environment. And why this is hard for children with autism is because shifting that attention from one thing to another can be very difficult. They get very honed in on a particular event or an activity. Also, the comprehension of verbal language is very difficult with students with autism, and they often have some sensory needs. So how the iPads help is the top picture in blue is an example of a visual schedule. This is a program called ChoiceWorks that we use on a daily basis with our students. It's a visual schedule where the kids can see exactly what's going to happen next. They can slide it to the right when they're done with their activity, and they know what to expect next in their schedule. We can add a timer or a video model to this application, and it's really, really nice. The bottom picture is a visual timer showing a definitive end to an activity. The students know when the red disappears, they are done. And what's nice about these iPads is they can't argue with an iPad or with a visual timer. That is kind of black and white. The schedule says we're done, the timer says we're done, time to move on. Whereas if it is a person trying to get them to transition, sometimes that isn't quite as successful. And these visuals really help increase their understanding of what's supposed to happen next. Auditory directions can be really difficult with children with autism. Not all, but some really have a difficult time understanding verbal directions. And videos and pictures are so much more concrete. They remove that verbal barrier. It can be a picture, a video, even a written list of first we're going to do this, second we do this. For those students who are readers, that written list or the directions written out can be very powerful for them. If we do need to take a video or a picture for our students, they can be taken quickly with an iPad. This can be even as simple as, I want my student to walk from this room to a different room and they don't want to leave. Or let's say a parent would like to walk from this room to the garage to get the shoes on. We may take a video of exactly what that child would see from his eyes of walking and seeing that new place. Show them that video and they understand what that expectation is. There's a lot of editing apps that can assist with that, but it can be as simple as just taking a quick video. And many of my students will play and replay videos several times on their own before initiating an activity, because they're like self-cueing themselves, like, okay, what is the expectation? What do I need to do? And they'll watch it and they'll understand. This really helps aid in learning new skills. Because of that difficulty with verbal directions and the anxiety and of not knowing what's to be expected, video modeling is a really powerful tool. I have a video that I want to show you. I have permission from this little girl's mom. Just in case the sound isn't working the best, I'm just going to narrate real quick what is happening in this video. It's a little girl who just got done with a preferred task, and I'm going to get her to paint with a paintbrush for the very first time. She has never painted with a paintbrush before. When we've given her paint and a paintbrush, she will either throw it, knock it over, or try and bite us or kick us because she's just not understanding what to do with this paintbrush. So I hand her her iPad. She reads through her schedule. She tries to slide the picture of the paintbrush over because she doesn't know. She's not sure what to expect. So I slide it back and she gets a little upset, and you'll see there's a little bit of a physical struggle, but we're not verbally arguing. I just slide it back to her schedule, and I keep silent to avoid that verbal struggle. I then show her a video model from her point of view. It shows a hand painting with a paintbrush, dipping the paintbrush into the paint, and she watches it several times. And it's such a powerful video for me because I had gotten to see how she responded without a video model, and it wasn't successful. So I'm going to pull up this video here for us. Pardon me while I try and get back to my presentation here. It's hidden. There we go. So it may seem like a real simple task, but this is a child, like I said, who would bite us or kick us or throw things just because she didn't understand. We use this video modeling to show her and teach her how to color with a crayon, how to glue with a glue stick, even how to play like with a farmhouse. She didn't know what to do with the animals, and we taught her how to play. We taught her how to participate with her classmates in the circle time activities. We taught her how to play with a friend and ask a friend to play. And by the time she went to 4K, she was able to participate about 75% with her peers. Whereas in 3K, she was separated for a long time. So just really, really powerful opportunities in using an iPad for this in this way. We can use an iPad to help students increase their engagement with others. We all know that social communication is an area of deficit in many students and in children and individuals with autism. An iPad can be used to watch a teacher through the screen. Video models, like I said with this past video, can teach a child how to wave to a friend, how to say hello, ask them to play, and even teach them how to play. An iPad, when used with those visual supports, can decrease their anxiety. They understand the expectations because they have that visual cue instead of the verbal cue. So to put it into terms that we all probably understand, how many of you use a calendar, a schedule, or an app on your phone? How do you feel when you can't remember when an event is and you can't find your schedule, whether it's on your phone or in a book? How many of you might use Siri, a map, written directions, navigation apps to find a new place? How many of you would like to know the schedule of a meeting, a party, wedding, seminar, a workshop might be, or check an agenda or the church bulletin or a schedule of a concert to see where you're at with the program? I'm a big to-do list person. I love to check it off and feel organized and productive. If you had to fix something in your car or around your home, would you prefer just someone talking to you, or would you like to watch a video? And then how many have looked up a video on YouTube to learn something new? We use visual supports every day as adults. And these are good examples of why visual supports help students. And we can use an iPad to provide those visual supports. So while this program is really awesome, there certainly are some challenges and considerations in terms of this project. I'll go through each of these, but the training takes time. We want them to be used with fidelity and consistency across all settings, making sure it's used for the purpose it was intended to be. That children with autism, just because they have a diagnosis of autism does not mean they need an iPad. Some students do very well with verbal directions and without the use of these visual supports. There's children with other diagnoses that could benefit from an iPad and this program. And unfortunately, not a lot of Kiwanis members get to participate and see the benefits beyond the presentation. So first of all, training families and that ongoing training, it really requires a lot of dedication from both the staff of your local school district and the families. It is necessary, but can be difficult for a variety of reasons. Staff at school, we have specialized training and we can troubleshoot and talk to one another about if there's problems. When something's not working, hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Parents don't have that person in the office next door to always ask those questions. They certainly can come to us, but I know that it's easier for us to work together within the school district. If the ongoing training is not available, we may see the use of the iPad decrease, and then that fidelity isn't happening. And certainly parent and caregiver schedules, stress, their level of support. Certainly our district is limiting. We are not able to do any home visits this fall due to COVID-19. So, and the parents and adults are not even going to be allowed in our school district. So I think that will be another added challenge to, working with families through any issues they have with their iPads, but certainly not something we're going to shy away from. We want to make sure that the iPad is used consistently across environments and communication partners. And without fidelity, the child may not have the buy-in that we would like to see and not see it as powerful maybe as they do in other environments. We want to make sure that it is successful so that the iPad is not used for purposes other than what it was intended for. We don't want to see it become a gaming device. Certainly, we know that Kiwanis members have put a lot of time and effort into fundraising, and the whole process takes a lot of time and dedication from the club. And this is something that I really take seriously when I consider an applicant or a student or family for the program, and I would hope that the staff within your school districts would as well. Just because a child or an individual has a diagnosis of autism does not mean that they need an iPad. Some students communicate excellent without the use of an iPad. They're very verbal. They have amazing communication skills. They can transition and learn without those outside supports. So, sometimes people may wonder why applications may not be coming in as quickly, but we really want to make sure that the right candidate is getting those iPads. Timers, pictures, and videos can be made and used on other devices, such as a parent's phone or iPods if they have those available. And our staff doesn't request an iPad unless we have made sure we had a chance to trial one at school and found it to be beneficial, that we have buy-in from the family and we feel the family would follow through on the use of that, and that they would be open to continued training and learning. on how to use it. There is a need beyond students with autism. There are a lot of other students who have a need for an iPad that could help support their communication and learning. Some of these candidates could be children with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, dysarthria, which is a weakness in muscles, including the oral motor muscles, English learners, English language learners, and then the moderate and severe children with apraxia. That is a communication breakdown between the brain and the mouth. There's no cognitive delay, there's no muscle weakness, but for some reason it gets jumbled. And we use a lot of augmentative communication for children with apraxia until they learn those motor sequences necessary for that verbal communication. So I know that our club, have been a handful of students who were approved for an iPad because I could make a good case that, they don't have autism. And I know that's that's how the program got started, but there's a couple of kids who really could use this and it's been beneficial for them. So our club has been really, really open to that. Unfortunately, this is a project that I feel like a lot of Kiwanis members miss out on. We dedicate a lot of time and energy to help fundraise for this program, and it's so appreciated. These are not cheap things to hand out. So, when you hand out something that's worth about $500, we know that a lot of time and money was put into that. And some may have the opportunity to be part of a presentation, to meet the family. But beyond that, it's typically the school staff that gets to work with the child and the family and see the results. And because of this, I think sometimes there can be a disconnect between this program and the members. And if any of you have any ways that we can improve or change this, I'm all ears. Certainly, a lot of the students that we grant these iPads to, there is a confidentiality piece. They're a child with special needs, and there's certain laws and regulations to how much staff can share. But if you have any ideas of how we can connect that, certainly please do let me know. So you're sitting here thinking this program is amazing. Maybe you've handed out iPads and have a wonderful opportunity to have experienced this before. Maybe you haven't, and you're wondering, what do I do next? Where are the applications and where can we find more information? Lynn's going to take over and go through some of that process at this time.
Sheila is a hard act to follow. She does such a wonderful job. Applications, one of the questions I always receive when I receive phone calls is, how do I get the application? Now, if you go to the website, what you're seeing right now on screen is a picture from the website when you go on to it. One of the things that you will see is that this picture scrolls. And where we first got the idea for this project with the iPads, you'll receive a note that you can view. And if you go on that, it'll say, go to YouTube, and we'll see that apps for autism from 60 Minutes, and it's where I got the idea, and you can view it from there. But the one question is, how do you get an application? On the site there, you'll see the words across the top. Those are tabs. It says grant application. If you can click there, you've got it right there. If you click on the grant application, the application will open and you can print it from there, from the site itself. Oh, there. She's gone onto the website there, on there. So you're gonna click on the grant application. Yeah, okay. And this is, the parents, the school therapist, special ed teacher, whatever, and click on that. And even though, like say Sheila had mentioned earlier about other children with other disabilities that need an iPad, myself, I'm open to that for anybody. And we've granted quite a number of iPads to children that have a real need for the iPad, and it's worked out very well. And we did one just recently here from Sheboygan Falls as well on that. So the applications is in 2 pages. Now on the second page is some of the qualifications. And one of the things is financial need. This is borderline as far as financial need. If the child needs it, and when you look at some of these families that have therapists come into their home 3-4 days a week, that can be very costly. And I've seen as high as $5,000 a month. So what kind of budget can afford that unless you're a millionaire on that? So I mean, that's marginal as far as the qualification on that. So if we go then as far as the what do you do when you receive a grant application? One of the things, there's 2 ways you can do it. In the Sheila's going through this right now, bringing this back up again. You can send what monies you have and to continue to receive into the Kiwanis District Foundation labeled for the Autism Project. What a lot of clubs are doing is when they need a grant application, they contact me and how much, and you send the check in for that. My own club and a couple other clubs, when you have fundraisers for the project, we send the total amount of money into the district foundation. And I have a person that keeps a record of the monies received from clubs. So if you want to know at this point where you stand as far as the amount of money on deposit, we can let you know. Secondly, you should name a contact person for your club and let the autism committee know who it is so that we can give that person access to BoxNet. Right now, I've got a list of over 80 individuals or 80 clubs contact people. It's good that I have the contact person in advance. If your club has not done it yet, I would appreciate receiving a contact person from that club, because when I receive a grant application in an area where I don't have a contact or a club has not done it in the past, it takes a lot of time to find out, who to send it to on this. And all applications are recorded, and you can view all in your community area when you have access to Box. Based on the funds available, the club makes available the selections that are to be awarded. Generally, you have received one and your club has to approve that. Once the selections are made, the club contact person contacts the families and the therapist to determine and verify what apps are needed. And a special note, Kiwanis does not purchase the apps, but each Kiwanis club's provided at least a $50 iTunes gift card unless the need is greater for a given child. And some of these applications are quite expensive. The one that is a communications application called For Loco to Go is around $250. So the iTunes gift cards can range from $50 to $250. A lot of them are quite reasonable on that. Once this is established at this time, notify the autism committee, the contact person, the results so that it all can be ordered. I generally have iPads in inventory, and I can get them to you almost ASAP. The iPads will be removed and put into the big grips cases before they are distributed to the clubs, ready to be set up by the therapist for the child for use. I try to get them all to clubs at no cost to the club. If I'm going somewhere, so I'll meet somebody or whatever, it's rare, and I don't want to pay or have shipping costs to the club because that takes away from the funds for the iPads. Above all, plan an event for the presentations to promote what your club is doing in the community, such as a newspaper and other media and submissions for the two Kiwanis or the Kiwana News. You need to get permission from the family, even though they have signed the grant applications, just to make sure that they have no problem with it being having a picture taken. There is one situation, especially when you've got foster children. They cannot be publicized that they are going to be receiving an iPad. In one case, I had both parents were in jail, and the foster children, it could not be made public that they received this. Above all, promote the project and encourage families and special ed teachers, therapists to submit the grant applications on that. I received all of the grant applications. I processed the confirmation letter to all the families, and I copy in when I send the email confirmation letter to the family, to the therapist, and to the club contact person. If I don't have a club contact person, I look up that club, and usually secretary, president, I'll copy them on the confirmation letter. And then, of course, clubs either ignore it, or says, why am I receiving this? And generally it falls by the wayside. Fundraisers. If you have a fundraiser for the iPad project, and you see the name Chris Jackie, and those that are Packer fans know who Chris Jackie is, he's still the Packer alumni spokesperson for the event, for the project. And if you do have an event, and you would want him to be at that event, if he's available for this project, he comes at no charge. Otherwise, the minimum charge is about $1,500 on this. And like I say, at this point, there's other fundraisers you can do. One is the pancake breakfast in the last workshop that you had at Applebee's. The Applebee's, if you approach, they do not serve breakfasts to the public, but they will provide a time frame before they open to the public. Usually it's like from 8 until 10, because they start serving to the public at 11 o'clock. And they provide all the cooking, the materials and everything else. And actually, it comes out about 75% of the receipts goes directly to the club on that. Autism Run and Walk, we started one in Sheboygan Falls. I know the Lakeland Club up in Monaco area. They did one of the first Autism Run Walks, and they made a small club, and it's phenomenal the amount of money. I think at that first one I did, I think they made about $5,000 on a morning or late morning event. And the biggest contributors to the Run and Walk are previous recipients. If you do work on a pledge system, some of these families, they're so thankful for receiving the iPad that they solicit a lot of funds for this event. Other fundraisers can be golf outings, and I mentioned there are Culver's in the previous workshop on that, and there's others. And one thing to note, and businesses will support a lot of these events because they know what it's going for, and not all money, or no, all monies raised in a community stay in that community for the children of that community. So we'll open it up for questions or comments on this. I know Sheila has done an excellent job on her. She did this part of this presentation to our club, and that's where I twisted her arm to do this for me today. Questions?
I have a question for Sheila, if I may open. Yeah,
Sure.
Sheila, Roger Krogstad here. My son noticed my son noticed that his young son was having some difficulty with eye contact and vocalization, and they had somebody from the county, the social services,
Okay.
evaluated him to have a certain level of autism spectrum issues. What is the youngest? I mean, this is something you're always talking about school-age children, but I think with autism spectrum, the earlier they start, the better with that. Is this something that applies to that very early age too?
Absolutely. Before I came to the Sheboygan Falls School District, I worked for 8 years for the Birth to 3 program in Sheboygan County.
Oh,
Birth
yeah.
to Birth to 3 services. I services infants straight out of the NICU if they need feeding therapy or physical therapy or occupational therapy, up
Sure.
to the age of 3, and then at the age of 3 they get transitioned to the school district. So certainly I have worked with younger than school age. I think that the earlier you can get intervention, certainly for communication among any other needs, the better. I know that the philosophy of the Birth to 3 program is to use the natural environment. And so using high-tech devices isn't always their first go-to, Roger. I
Okay.
think that those interventionists are going to try and use things in the home, but I certainly feel that if the comprehension and transitioning, and if the child is not understanding the expectations, certainly using a phone, an iPhone or an iPad or some type of recording device to take videos of what's expected and to teach certainly could be done earlier than 3, earlier before school age.
Okay. I didn't know what's the
Absolutely.
earliest, Lynn, what's the earliest or the youngest child you've had? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, anything over age 2. I mean, I think the state doesn't allow evaluating until age 2, but early diagnosis is extremely critical. And
Yep.
the perfect example is our granddaughter was not diagnosed properly until she was almost 8 years old. And that is too many years gone for her, and it's 22 and home 24/7 right now.
And to be clear, we know, I'm a parent of 3 boys, and we know that this generation of kids are on a lot of screens and certainly are more electronic than a lot of us were. And so while we use that technology for learning pieces, we try and fade those out when possible, just so that they're not dependent on the iPad for so many things. We want to make sure they're getting that authentic social communication piece and learning as well. But certainly it could be used earlier than 3 for certain learning opportunities.
Thank you.
There's also low-tech communication where we can use pictures that are printed off too. An iPad wouldn't be necessary if there's different pictures on the refrigerator and the child can point to what they want to eat, or if there's pictures of desired toys or activities that they want, the ball or the bubbles, they can point to that too. So there's low-tech options.
Can you bring George downstairs? Will you check on this in like a half hour?
Sure.
I have a question, or a comment, I should say, on the with the autistic spectrum. I'm a music therapist, so using music with that child in the very early stages is really, really important, because then that helps the entire brain engage. So singing with them or playing musical songs and singing the instructions. Most of us don't remember that we should use our singing voices, but as Kiwanians, many of us are singers. And well, there are many clubs that have nixed that, I get it, but in our club, we are decidedly singers. But if you could have your son and daughter or whatever, use music regularly in the home if they don't already, to remember that. Even if you don't think you can sing or squat, they can still, rhythmically speak. And there's a thing called interactive metronome that is very effective with autistic kids or kids that are on the spectrum. So, there's lots of different solutions that don't necessarily have to be high tech at the birth. So, you can move on into the birth to 3, you implement all of these things, but the iPads are a nice addition to the process from birth. So that's just my 2 cents.
I love that you brought that up. I've made songs about cotton balls, just to kind of to get the child engaged, and just I love music as well. And you make a really good point that the technology and the iPad really should be considered supplemental and not just the only tool. There's a lot.
Correct.
And I love your ideas.
Correct. Yep.
Sheila has seen the video on the website.
Pardon?
Have you seen the video that was on the website?
I haven't yet, no,
Because I see there's, you know, even though it's old, but it shows in there what music as well, you know, that children have discovered.
Sure, absolutely. If you look at my website is musictherapist.co. The one child that's in there is also, that is on the marquee. You don't hear it, but you can see how he interacts with his mother, because that's a virtual experience. It's just a brief, you know, snapshot. So musictherapist.co is my website. So it's a great music has been very, very instrumental for kids. And even though, you know, I've had to go virtual with several of them because of the COVID, when you have an interactive parent, that shows how the parent can be interacting with the child. And so if they can use the YouTube and some other things like that, that would be, you know, a very, very advisable intervention, especially for the tiny ones, the ones that don't really necessarily notice the screen. They notice the interaction with the adult. So those are some suggestions I would have for those babies that are just having troubles getting started. I have a grandson that I'm watching today. That's why I'm not on video right now, and I'm muted most of the time. And he's now sleeping. So thank you. Yeah. Now I can talk without interruption. And
You look young to be a grandparent.
well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yes, yes, I am. But you know, it's all good. I'm in Eau Claire. I am the president-elect of the Eau Claire Kiwanis. And so we meet on noon on Thursdays. So,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Any other awesome ideas or resources or questions?
Mike Hippel has a question, I see. You have to unmute Mike. I don't know if I can do that. Okay, Mike.
There you go.
That's
I want to remind everyone that you can tell families about my organization, Wisconsin AAC Network, please.
Wisconsin AAC Network?
Yeah.
Did you by chance come to a CISA 7 event last year for a speech therapist and present?
That was K E L L Y F O N N E R.
Okay.
It was Kelly Fonner.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think I've seen you somewhere, Mike. So the Wisconsin AAC Network. I will check that out.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sheila and Lynn. That was very, very good. I'm going to be closing this session out, and if you, I guess we're breaking for lunch, so I think there's steak sandwiches in the cafeteria if you want them. lobster bisque soup. Should be really good. Anyway, if you, I put the link there for the main in the chat box. That's the link for the main Zoom number. You can log in on there and start that one.
Larry, there will be some vignettes from Kiwanis International during that intermission, that 12 to 1.
That's
so
right.
people can log on to that main one, and as soon as that starts, then there are some really heartwarming scenarios on there with Kiwanians working with children. I think there are also pictures of projects they've done overseas. And so it is a